Hey everybody, I'm just Q, and this is a paid promotion video. My slogan here is stay happy, always. So, with that being said, this game includes gacha mechanics and optional microtransactions. Please play responsibly and keep track of your spending. All in-game purchases have no real-world value. If you're under 18, get parent or guardian permission before buying anything. Have fun and play smart. Now, enjoy the video. Hey everybody, I'm just Q, and I'm back with some more Chaos Zero Nightmare content. Today we will be going through a Chaos Beginner Guide for my beginners. I know some people have been like, man, I need a little bit of help with this Chaos mode, and I think this is something good just to make for beginners so they'll have something to come back to as the game progresses. Because once you get Chaos mode on rerun, then everything just kind of builds off of that. So let's hop right on into this guide. What we will cover in this guide will be team building, goals, focusing. So who is this run for? Pivoting runs. We'll talk more about that because I know that's like not self-explanatory. Path planning, stress management, healer, stats, when to let stress max out, and deck building, adding cards, removing cards, ways to obtain equipment, epiphanies, and ways to duplicate cards. So let's begin this because I know this is a lot of content that a lot of people have been waiting for. So let's hop right on into it. Now, in terms of team building, consider this when building your team because like who's going to be doing damage like that's a big thing. Like, so who's going to be your DPS, who's going to be providing support. You know, in terms of support, you can go healing, shielding. So, obviously everybody uses Mika. A lot of people use Mika. You can even go with a shielding team that does like counterattacks if we're talking something like Magna. And then in terms of DPS, you know, we have the current banner character over here, Haru, that's on screen. So, you know, you have to think about these things. And then also moving towards the next one, which would be, do you want card/AP manipulation? So I put this here because I know this is something that's not going to be, again, self-explanatory for beginners. So I want to be able to explain this to you guys. So the ability to manipulate your deck by adding cards, taking away cards, shuffling your deck. This is basically all together when we say adding cards, taking them away, or shuffling your deck. It's just deck manipulation altogether. Like if you just want one term, it's deck manipulation. Now, in terms of the AP, you know, our ability to add AP, that just gives you extra action points so you can, you know, throw out more attack cards, skill cards, things of that nature. So you have to think about this when team building. So who's going to provide you, again, with the damage, the healing, the shielding, and who's going to also provide you if you do want to be able to manipulate your deck? Who can do that? Like what combatant can do that, you know, and help you, you know, achieve your goals. So you have to think who's going to do all of these various different things on my team, you know, before you get obviously to the point where you even want to go into chaos. So these are the things that I would consider thinking about before you even go into chaos. Now, in terms of goals focus, I would definitely think about this before you do your runs. So who is this run for? Now, when I usually go into a run, because I actually did some runs, you guys won't see this for a while. So let me see, it's like November 5th. It's early in the morning for me, but I did a run on like November 4th for basically trying to make my Lucas better. And I was like, man, this run's for Lucas. Wait, you know, actually originally it was for my Veronica, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But you have to pick someone in terms of like who the run's going to be for, in terms of like, you know, what are you going to focus on, you know, for equipment, epiphanies, deck building. It typically, ideally, you want to focus on one person because it's more efficient that way. You can always go back in to focus on another character so you can get all possible, you know, epiphanies, card duplications, you know, equipment, things of that nature on the one character. I'm not saying you're ignoring other characters. You're still going to get epiphanies and even, you know, gear for other characters, just not probably, it's not going to be the best run for those characters. You're still going to progress them. It's just not the main focus that you're worried about. And they're not going to get the best, deck out of that run. And then in terms of pivoting your runs, what I mean by pivoting is basically changing paths, because I would again ask you who this run is for, but then say you go into a run, which is why I was talking about my run for my Lucas. Originally it was for my Veronica, but as I progressed through the run, I kept getting really good Lucas cards. I kept getting really good gear for Lucas. It's not that I wasn't getting any cards for my Veronica, it's just I was getting a lot of things that really make Lucas very good. And I actually just got done like working on his potentials. So as he started to snowball, I was seeing all these cards and all these pieces of gear start to matriculate through the run, and I was like, oh my god, this is basically a Lucas run. So I pivoted and started focusing Epiphanies and card duplications and all these different things you're going to hear me talk about later on in this guide. I started pivoting and focusing on Lucas. So again, you might have like incorrect / missed Epiphanies. Again, I missed them, but I got them on Lucas. Missed card duplications, I missed them for Veronica, but again, I got them on Lucas. And then gear drops for other combatants. Again, I got gear for Lucas instead of my Veronica. So I ended up pivoting and saying like, hey, this is definitely a run for my Lucas, and it just really made I got very good data for him. So it was very good progression. I mean, the damage numbers skyrocketed compared to what I was doing, and just very happy. So sometimes you kind of lose out on what you really want to focus on, but you can always pivot, and you never know what might happen. So not all is lost. Now, the big one, path planning, because once you have an idea of who you're going to focus on, what this run is going to be for, and obviously there's going to be some pivoting in between, just in case plans change, but you want to think about which path is better for, whether it be like credits, random encounters, your stress management, and survivability. These are the things you want to think about when you're planning your path. Now, once you get up to about level 3, you'll have the option for, well, not option, but you'll have the ability to do what's called the exterior and then the interior. So once you actually beat the exterior boss, it'll show on your preview screen that you'll have 2 different bosses on your screen. So you'll see 2 different mobs. And once you beat that first boss, it'll go and say interior, and you'll have to do a whole nother separate pathing to get to the next boss, which is the interior boss. So you have to plan out properly, because along the way you still do want some credits, because you never know if you want to buy something from the store. Again, this is all based on whatever your goals are going to be for this run. And then in terms of some of the random encounters as well, you still want to have some random encounters. You never know what you might get from them. And then also you want to be able to properly manage that stress, because you might want to be like, you don't want to go on a path where you might just have like 1 or 2 fights, if it's possible. Sometimes it is. But then if you only have the 1 or 2 fights, but then say you're going to go into that very last fight, and then your healer is like literally a 1 tap away from, going into full insanity. You don't want to do that on the boss. You really don't. So you really need to plan out your pathing so you have enough fights, to plan out that stress management. And overall, the goal is to survive. So that's why survivability is on here. You want to pick the path that is best for your survivability. The goal is to beat the bosses. If at all anything else, you want to achieve the goal of actually completing everything. Now, in terms of stress management, because I really wanted to hit on this one, so I had to give it its own separate page. Stress should be maxed ideally before elite fights and boss fights, because these are obviously the more challenging fights. So I would try to max out your stress in a regular fight. I mean, it's simple to say. Try to max out your stress in a regular fight, especially if it's your healer or your shielder, that has high stress, because these are your damage mitigators or HP regen character. So if you lose them, chances are you could lose the whole entire run if you do it in a very bad spot. Sometimes I even try to do it towards the end of a fight. So say I have very high stress, I'm like, I have 1 mob that's on this screen, I don't have a dot damage on them or something. I'm not dealing maybe even extra attack damage. So what I will do is literally let them attack me and let my character's stress max out. And then hopefully I'll get at least 1 or 2 cards, and then I'll pop those cards off. If I get lucky, then sure, cool. You know, they recover, stress goes down for everybody, including them. And then I could just move on, kill the mob, whatever. But if I don't, then I'll take those 1 or 2 cards, go ahead and kill that mob, go into the next fight, and I'm already still 2 cards into recovering this unit. So you really want to plan out how you want to do it. And again, my recommendation would be, number 1, regular fight. Number 2, once you have some chaos runs under your belt, you'll get a feel for doing it like I just explained it, like towards the end of a fight, versus, you know, just starting a brand new fight or something like that. So, or, you know, being able to nuke a lot of mobs down, leaving 1, and then just intentionally letting them, you know, hit you, and then max out stress, and then trying to either recover, you can recover in that fight, or again, like I said, throw a couple cards, recover in the next fight, you know, or, you know, RNG. Sometimes you just get lucky, you'll throw 1 card and then unit automatically recovers. But you have to manage that stress, because stress management is the only thing that really can just kind of like kill a run if you're not keeping an eye on it, you know. Now, deck building. So we want to go over the key concepts of deck building, because you need to understand, you know, obviously exactly all that entails, so that way you can get more out of the chaos runs, because the chaos runs are essentially to, you know, build your deck. I mean, this is a deck building game, and I want you to understand each and every single part of it. So in terms of deck building, we have adding cards and removing cards. Now, in terms of adding cards, we have Epiphanies, we have store purchases, random encounters, training, and card duplication. Now, in terms of Epiphanies, we have, you know, different types of Epiphanies in terms of the latent Epiphany, which is like just normal progression and things like that. And you're going to get those just kind of even towards the beginning, but you can get Epiphanies in various amounts of ways, and we're going to hit on that too by itself, so you can understand what that truly is. But again, that's one avenue of adding cards to your deck. So, and you'll get natural progression Epiphanies as you start to play in the beginning of the chaos mode. You can also add cards via store purchases. These are typically neutral cards, or I think that just they're all neutral cards. I mean, even when you're talking about training, those are also neutral cards. So if you want to know the difference between your neutral cards, your unique cards, and let me see if I can remember my other one: neutral cards, unique cards, and basic cards. Your basic cards are just going to be your starting cards if you're looking at your character, and I'll try to have something on screen to differentiate the two. But your basic cards are going to be like your top cards there, and then your unique cards are going to be down on the bottom, and then your neutral cards are going to be what you actually obtain from chaos mode, whether it be from training or from store purchases. So that's how you add those to your deck. And then also through random encounters, you can also get some more neutral cards. Or what can happen is you'll get a chance to duplicate a card, and that'll obviously add a card, because you just, turn one card into two. So, that happens. And then in terms of removing cards, you'll also have the random encounters that can actually help you remove cards, because when you go through for the store purchases, the first purchase I want to say is 80 credits, and I think I want to say it goes up to 120. So obviously the cost will go up. So random encounters, removing cards, a plus, because it saves you on credits, especially if you want to use those credits to maybe buy gear, or maybe you're waiting for a specific neutral card to come in, something like that. So just want to show you got options. You got options when it comes to adding cards, but removing cards, you gotta be smart about what you're removing and when you're removing them. Now, ways to obtain equipment. We're gonna have guaranteed tiles. Now, these tiles are gonna be orange in color, gonna kind of have this like diamond shape on them. And as soon as you go into this tile, this little machine's gonna pop up, and it's basically gonna do this little thing, and then it's gonna say, hey, this is the piece of gear that you obtained, and you're just gonna guarantee obtain this piece of gear. There isn't like a specific, I would say, guaranteed rarity. I would say is the same, between maybe rare and legendary. I think it says the same thing every single time. So I mean, it's just a random drop, but it is a guaranteed drop that you'll get. It's just, and that's the only thing you'll encounter on that tile, is you'll be obtaining gear. Now, as we talked about the store before, you can purchase cards in there, but you can also purchase equipment in there. Now, sometimes the store will have sales on gear, so you just gotta, watch out for that. So just know you can purchase the gear in there. You don't have to always purchase it for a max price. It will have occasional sales, so sometimes being a little patient can help out, but it just kind of depends. Like I said, just play your run the best way you can. I mean, this is a mode we're going to be playing, kind of over and over. Of course, eventually, once you have mastered, chaos mode, and then of course leveled up, you'll want to move over to the zero system. And I'm not gonna talk too much about that. We'll have a separate guide on that. But this mode is to get you ready for the zero system. Once you understand this, then you'll understand everything in zero, and there'll just be like an added level of difficulty. So, store purchases. Then you also have random encounters. Random encounters can give you gear just as an option of, like, say, hey, I don't know, kneel down and pray or something like that, and you'll obtain this piece of gear. Or also you'll have dice rolls. Sometimes you'll have to roll a dice and you'll obtain a gear. And if you fail, either A, the event will end, or B, you might have to fight somebody. So that also happens. And then of course, if you fight elites, you can get some drops from elites. So, I mean, various ways of obtaining equipment in chaos mode. Now, in terms of epiphanies, because like I said, I wanted to hit on this by itself because I don't want people to be confused. Don't want to go off too much of a tangent early on, but I knew I really wanted to hit on this subject. Epiphany collection. Now, we have the natural progression. Again, when I say natural progression, you'll just literally start off chaos mode real clean. You'll have like this kind of like sometimes shine to your deck. It'll, kind of like a gleam or something like that. It kind of looks like on your deck. That basically tells you that you have a card that can obtain an epiphany that's in your deck. It's just right now you have to wait till you draw the card. Now, the best part about this in terms of when we're talking about the latent epiphanies, say you're just trying to put out damage on someone and you really don't want to use a specific card right now. You're just trying to beat this mode. Beat this particular stage that you're on. You can leave that card just fine. And usually after the battle is over, it'll say latent epiphany, and that card will still, gain epiphany. I think the only time that will not work is if it's like an epiphany that's supposed to give you another card, like add a card to your deck. But if it's a card that's actually just gonna epiphany by itself and, gain extra effect or change the effect of the card, usually that'll happen after the fight. You just gotta, again, get some runs under your belt and you'll kind of get a feel for like, I'll just let that one be a latent epiphany and get it automatically after the fight and just kind of mitigate damage and kill this mob right now. But you also have the, random encounters that can give you epiphanies. It'll say sometimes something like, all combatants stress plus, X number, and then epiphany, or if it's just a random event that literally just gives you an epiphany. No negative effects whatsoever. So again, it's random. So but then you also have special encounters, and special encounters with special, I would say, creatures, gods. I'm not really sure. I haven't really been paying attention to the story too much, and sometimes it's even special people like a priest I've seen before. So they'll give you options for epiphanies as well. And usually the effects on these like the special encounters, are very, very good. You just gotta weigh your options. It really does depend on, again, back to the beginning, like what are your goals? Does that epiphany for that special epiphany align with what you're trying to achieve with this character? Even if you had to pivot to another character, or even if it's for neither character, like, so say you want to go for DPS A or B, but then it's like, oh, it's actually from a healer. Does this epiphany from this special encounter actually, go along with something my healer could do to support my team to help me achieve my goal and the rest of this run? But those are the ways that you can obtain epiphanies all throughout chaos. Now, in terms of duplicating cards, card duplications, we have two different ways: special encounters and boss fight completion reward. Now, with special encounters, sometimes you may have to take a penalty, like all combatants plus 10 stress. This was one specific to me where I think I literally just did this recently, again with my run with Lucas and Veronica, and I think I was running Mika as my healer, and it was like, you take plus 10 stress and you have a chance to duplicate a card. I'm like, I had the option of duplication or epiphany, but the thing is with epiphany, since I had already went through all the possible cards to epiphany for Lucas, I was like, well, I'm not going to get anything else out of this unless I duplicate. So I took the extra 10 stress, managed my stress, throughout the rest of my run, but it gave me an extra card that I could duplicate, more damage because I took the extra DPS. So sometimes it's a risk and reward type thing. So you just gotta kind of look at it like, say, hey, can I take on this this negative effect, or can I not? Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's too much of a risk. And then again, since we want to always complete everything, boss fight completion reward, usually when you beat the boss, they'll be like, hey, which card do you want to duplicate? They'll give you 3 options. It's not like a selective choice, unfortunately, but during the special encounters, you will usually get a choice for the special encounters. I don't think I've had a special encounter, at least me personally, I haven't had a special encounter where it's just like, I'm gonna duplicate this card. Usually they let me choose. But for the boss fight completion reward, there'll be 3 cards that'll pop up, and then you'll choose from those 3 cards, but you just won't be able to choose from your whole deck, if that makes sense. So it's not a full choice from the entirety of your deck, versus with the special encounters, they just literally let you choose from the entirety of your deck. So it'll just be an RNG of like, here's these 3 cards, which ones do you want to duplicate for the boss fight completion reward? But if you get lucky and you get a card that you really, really, really do want to duplicate, then you could possibly end up like me when I'm using my Tressa and I have like a crap ton of daggers. Like, I mean, a lot of daggers. And it's literally because I duplicated a card where I literally just, at the beginning of the fight, it's just my Outbreak of 4 card. So, and I just get so many daggers from healing. So this is the way that you can duplicate cards. I mean, I know some people are going to be thinking about that. They're going to be seeing all these decks, I mean, who knows, even a year from now, somebody starts the game, they're like, hey, how do people do all this duplication? Alrighty, and that's it. I just wanted to go through everything. Hopefully I broke it down for everybody just fine. I wanted to take my time. I wanted to make sure everybody understands everything. But what are your thoughts? Did I miss anything? Should I improve anything? Did you understand everything? I kind of just treat this more so as like almost like a fireside chat. Like, I'm just sitting here, I talk through everything as it kind of pops up for me. Hopefully on the editing side I did some really good stuff, but I want to make sure everybody understands everything, because once you get the underlying like premise of how chaos works, like I said, that builds, and then you go into the zero system, and then once you go into the zero system and you already take everything from the chaos, and then bam, it just builds off of everything. You understand how to get good data, better data building, and then it just helps you do all of the content better, because now your characters are going to be doing more damage based off of you understanding the basics of the game. So everybody's got to start somewhere. That's all. But hopefully everybody enjoyed hanging out with me and going through chaos mode. But remember, when you're here, I want you to stay happy always. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.